Niall Quinn, around this time last year you said you were stepping away from punditry, and here you are back.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be asked back. I had a year away. I started up a tech company and had to dig that out of the ground for the last 12 months. Still doing a bit of it, and it's going pretty well. But I suppose I kept watching football. I didn't give up on football. It was funny. I was now looking at other people and what they were saying on TV, and would I agree with them or disagree with them, and so I still had a bit of, the juices were flowing.
Something else you stepped away from, obviously, is Sunderland. You were linked with it and you denied it.
Yes.
What would tempt you back?
Oh no, I don't think there's a lot would tempt me back there. I think fair play to the guy who's gone in there. One of the biggest things he's done, and you need to understand Sunderland, and I think he does already, is you need to have the fans on your side and they need to trust in where you're going. They don't demand success, but they need to trust that there's a vision in place that has a care, genuine care, and I suppose a want and an understanding of the fans' passion, and I think that disappeared a little bit in the last few years, and the guy who's gone in now, or the team that's gone in now, the manager as well, they seem to be really getting that right, and the players are buying into it, and I have a lot of Sunderland friends still, and they're really happy at the moment. It was a dismal prospect going down into the third tier, but they're happier now than they've been in 3 or 4 years, so hopefully it'll grow strong and build itself back up. But I don't think it was ever an option for me. I'd had a couple of interested parties get in touch with me, but not to lead from the front, maybe just in an advisory capacity to give them a little bit of a hand before they went in. But the group that finally got it, I didn't know them, I don't know them, but I pat them on the back and wish them continued success, because they've got off to a really good start.
That'd be the next natural question. Times have changed, even compared to when you first joined Sunderland in the capacity you did with the Irish consortium. I'd imagine the way financials are gone now, It'd be very, very different. Would you be even able to do it?
Well, there you go. So when we came in, I think it was 12 years ago, so it's not 100 years ago, but it was 12 years ago, we bought the club for, I think, about 2/3 of the price of a left back that they bought 2.5 years ago. And that kind of sums it up, really, You can have a football club with a stadium and a crowd of 40-odd thousand, maybe nearly 49,000 when things are going well. Fantastic training ground, a hotel, a massive infrastructure. And sort of 8-10 years later, you can't buy a fullback or anybody to play in your team for 1/3 of that. But now, to do that now, you really need a big checkbook.
And that brings us on naturally to the League of Ireland. We've seen out this summer, we've got Dundalk and Cork City, who are like a step above everyone else. But as we're seeing, they're not making the impact in Europe. And if they have a player, they're taken off them.
Well, that's true, yeah. And it's unfortunate, that Dundalk didn't kick on this year. I really thought, after last year and the extra investment that there was a European campaign. The draw was quite tough on them. But in general, I think the League of Ireland probably does need an impact now. It needs lifting. I listened very attentively to Richard Sadlier and Stephen Kenny speaking during the week about the need for some assistance at government level to bring the league into place. I would look at it in a more rounded way. I'd look at the entire playing system we have here. There's some real positives. Our underage teams have started to do very well. So I think the FAI should be patted on the back for what they're doing in emerging talent areas. Our team, I think, are good enough at senior level to qualify for the Euros. This new format will hopefully make it a bit easier for that to happen, and we can build on that. And the younger players that are coming in, or the new players that are coming in that have maybe experienced League of Ireland, that have got themselves over to maybe the Championship or the third tier in England, that they seize the moment now that they're given, that they're being blooded, given their opportunity by Martin, and that they want more and to get far more out of it, than where they might have thought possible. And it's not a silly thing to suggest that the players who maybe left the League of Ireland, who went to clubs like Preston and what have you, that they can kick on and get big moves to other clubs. I think that's there for them. For the league itself, yes, it does. I think facilities, a lot of infrastructure is needed to make it an appealing and attractive league to go and watch for families. How do you do that? It's not simple, so I'm not here to give you the answer to do that. I do know a real sort of progressive plan is needed. It needs buy-in from a lot of stakeholders, particularly government and perhaps the commercial world. There may be value in it, particularly as football is so big here. It should be in a better place. But there's one fantastic not a green shoot of recovery, because that's the wrong word, but a green shoot of positivity, in that the young Shamrock Rovers goalkeeper, young Benuzzo, a powerhouse like Man City, not alone will they pay 400,000 for him, they will also let him stay here and do his leaving certificate. I think that's huge. That's a big sea change from where our sort of talent was looked on by other clubs. You know, I remember speaking to Brian Marwood at Man City, and he said, "Oh, we'd like to have Irish kids younger. We don't trust your system. We want to see them at 12, 13 and get them 3 or 4 years before they come to us." And I said, that's very fine. But now what's happened is, not only have they seen the talent that this young lad has, they're willing to let him develop as a young man before he goes and throws his lot into becoming a top footballer. So instead of English clubs thinking, "Oh, we'll get him over cheap, and if he's no good, we'll send him back. Oh, it doesn't matter, he hasn't got his leaving cert, he'll find his own way in life." That's the way it's been forever. Now suddenly you've got a system where Manchester City, one of the top powerhouses in world football, are respecting A, the player's talent, and B, the player's desire and his family's desire to be a young man when he goes, not a young boy. And I think that's huge. That means, you know, our system is still producing quality players. How can we manufacture that into getting more of them into better situations? That's the big question, and how that can help the League of Ireland. So could talk to you here about it all day, but it does need some action.
I know you're under time pressure, so I won't keep you, but just one thing you've been very vocal on is, moving on from that, is the subject of player welfare, which hasn't always been the top of the tree when things are being discussed, like plans, fixtures, plans, development of players. Some has been done, but a lot more needs to be done.
Well, yeah, in lots of ways, you know. I think not just in football, you know, I read lots of stories about GAA guys who weren't ready for their retirement, or who it ended too early for them, and they weren't in a position to deal with it. And I think from young lads who were let go very early on, who were deemed failures before they've even got going as a human being, that's bad enough as it is. That's why you know, even though I didn't do it myself, I'm a big advocate of, if you can get a club to wait for you till you do your leaving cert, you know, A, you've got a better chance, I think, because they care more about you, they'll wait longer for you, and B, you're developed more as a human being. So ex-players probably haven't provided for things as well as they might. Divorce happens a lot in our world anyway, in the football world, sport in general, I think. Retirement, divorce, bankruptcy, bad investments, you know, there's a catalogue of disasters out there, household names in the past, and life hasn't been as kind, or hasn't dealt them the hand they had as players, and it's difficult, but of course the preparation before you retire is where it's really at, and that's the bit that I think, you know, the Premier League, the FA, all these different people could look closely at. There should be almost an automatic 3-year period. When you hit 30 years of age as a footballer, you must withhold your wages unless you do these preparatory programs, because it's a horrible fall the day the lights go out on your career, and you take the plaudits for a few weeks afterwards. But within 6 months, a lot of players just don't know what's ahead of them. They don't know, they weren't ready for it, they hadn't experienced anything like it before, and they lose their esteem. As I said to you, multiply that with bad investments. It's a lot of pain there that we don't see, and not looking for sympathy for these people, just like maybe the people who got so much enjoyment out of them, the associations that they made the things. Okay, you know, that they somehow maybe just rejig how players prepare for their retirement.